Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Walking the Planks, the podcast on Roguedeckbuilder.com. I'm your host, MJ Conroy, aka Sith Lord 066. With me again, as always, is the Destro to my Cobra Commander, Mr. Nate Plant.
Oh, I'm Destro this week. Sweet.
Well, you know,
What's up, guys?
the reason you're a Destro this week is because I had to come up with something that there was a 3 thing. So, as
Okay.
you are the Destro to my Cobra Commander, I am Cobra Commander to my guest today, the Serpentor, if you will, Mr. Kevin Crimin.
I didn't get any of those references. Sorry.
Man,
G.I. Joe?
never watched G.I. Joe? Really? Ugh. All right. So today, we had like this huge list of things we were going to do and everything, but then of course the MOCs debacle happened. So that's probably going to be a lot of the content today. So for those of you who have been living under a rock this week, what happened was last Saturday, the MOCs basically crashed. And while this is not the first time, as I found out, this is actually about the 4th time this has happened. This is the first time that a major personality in the Magic community has actually been a part of it. Brian Kibler was actually playing in his very first MOCs, and according to his little post and screenshot, he was actually set to go top 8 in first place when the MOCs crashed. He does not have the ability. He's going to be doing other things, as there is, I think he said, either a Grand Prix or something that takes place when the next MOCs remake tournament is going to. So he doesn't have the ability to go back into that, so he kind of went off in a bit of a tangent. And while I don't agree with his end thing of deleting MTGO, I totally agree with the fact that it does need to be fixed. Kevin, what is your thoughts on this?
Well, I am completely in the other. If anyone has personally interacted with me before, you know that my laundry list against MTGO is huge. I've sent off some very nasty letters to MTGO before because it is a very frustrating client to work with.
Very.
The fact that being running a YouTube channel, especially one with a niche of rogue decks, one of the obvious things would be to try to build a clan or some sort of way to play with people in MTGO, and it is just a hassle. There's no way to set private tournaments. There's no real function for the clan whatsoever. I mean, that's why we kind of just let the clan die, because there's no point to it. It just became kind of another chat function. You couldn't really have any sort of clan hierarchy. We had to log into a separate account so that we could add new people. I mean, it's just a mess. Things that, games that are 10 years ago still have better interface than MTGO has right now. And so on that aspect, I can empathize with Brian Kibler, but I'm disagreeing with everyone on the internet community that I think that Brian Kibler went way too far, and it really wasn't his place to really spout off, because the amount of love, I guess, that Wizards has showed him over the last years, and just the blind eyes they've turned his way for some of his questionable moves he's done in the past, Las Vegas being one of the huge ones where he showed up for his appearance fee and then just left, I think has been very unprofessional for Brian Kibler. And this just put me over the edge to where I can't call myself a Brian Kibler fan anymore, because I think he went too far. His tirade was too much. And it's one of those times where instead of constructive criticism or just being, a more positive influence for change, that he went too far and just became a distraction and a negative influence. But I mean, it did change things, so you got to give him that much.
Well, I mean, you don't think that there's some, fact to the matter is he was just angry? I mean, a lot of that was just, he had basically top 8'd.
Yeah,
And now he can't make it up. I mean, let's face it. I mean, we're not talking, 20 packs or whatever. $25,000 grand prize. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, there's buys for the Pro Tour for the winner.
I think you actually do get it's not buys. There's no buys in Pro Tour.
Oh, okay.
But you do get an invite, I believe, for that. That's how I think Reed Duke got on. Have you seen Reed Duke's Twitter about the entire thing?
No.
Oh, because Reed Duke, I'll have to find it here. I think it was on TCG Player. Where he basically, his response was perfect, because I guess someone else retweeted Brian Twitter, because Brian Kibler basically said, delete your MTGO, don't ever play it if you haven't played it. And where is it here with? I'll have to find this.
Well, that part of Kibler is
by
saying
Reed Dukes.
to delete MTGO is way too far. But I mean, I don't think it's acceptable for MTGO to even have done this at all. Like, it's totally on Wizards. It's not on Kibler for doing, because he wouldn't have done it if if the client wasn't crap.
Actually, Nate brings up a great point. And when I follow Brian Kibler on Twitter, actually, even before this. Like I said, he's one of my favorite players. I actually really like him. But if you actually read some of his tweets and some of his comments prior to this happening, he was actually ecstatic about this.
Yeah.
Like, he was talking about how this could be a great alternative to actually like going places. He could play with his pet on his lap. He can get up, have a sandwich between the breaks, all this great stuff. It was primed to be great publicity for MTGO, and then it was ruined by the fact that it wasn't even successfully completed. I mean, think about this. Like, if this was another company, for example, like I would say that the two biggest analogs have been to MTGO. You got other games to play for online, like World of Warcraft, League of Legends, which is probably the one that most people would think of. And this has actually happened where a League of Legends thing, I looked this up. This was also mentioned in this article, but I did my own research. Back in October of 2012, there was a League of Legends tournament in Los Angeles where server power issues caused the games to crash. And what did Riot? Riot is the company that makes this. They fixed this in 3 days. It took them 3 days to not only just fix the complete client so that it could work. Why can't Wizards of the Coast say, look, okay, we don't have the capabilities, we don't have the personnel to actually get this going? I mean, I'll tell you right now, I've been playing on the beta since the Innistrad release. The beta is not the answer. Okay, it's just as bad or worse. Why can't they hire an outside company to fix this?
Nepotism.
Well, they could totally just hire more people to fix the client. But I think the distinction between like Riot and Wizards is that Wizards is a paper game company. Like they're a board game company, not a video game company, which is what Riot is.
Yeah, but
they're not. They're creating a product that is a video game, and they should be held to that standard. But they weren't focused on it is the problem.
Yeah, and I understand that too, but the thing is, they are a paper game company, but again, I did a lot of research because I wrote an article which will hopefully be featured on Roguedeckbuilder soon. And one of the things I found was a 2007 interview from, he was then the WotC brand manager, Worth Wolpert. He's now the executive producer of MTG. It was from GameSpy, where GameSpy asked him, and I quote, one would presume that the digital objects are far more profitable for WotC, since you can circumvent printing costs, shipping, and you can sell them for the full suggested retail price instead of selling them at a discount to retailers. It's also interesting to note that the gray market, and it trades between players, the online cards have the same value, if not more than the physical cards. How do sales in the digital cards compare to the physical cards, and how much of a share of Magic business does Magic Online make up? And he responded, without getting into specific numbers, North American MTG versus Magic Online, the online game is somewhere between 30 to 50% of the total Magic revenue. Now, They even then state that most of the sales are in North America. Now, that's almost anywhere between 30 to half of all Magic revenue, and this is in 2007.
Yeah.
And from everything I've read, MTGO has increased in revenue. So why are they only worried about the paper? This should be a huge priority. Am I wrong?
You're totally right, and I think that they need to reevaluate like their priorities going forward, and they need to hire more people just to do Magic Online. Like, there's no reason we should get sets weeks after they're released in paper.
Oh, don't get me started on the Commander thing.
That's another thing.
That is a good point.
And the funny thing is, I was actually the first.
Well, they've actually stated that pretty good. They don't want to compete with their own paper game. Is what they want people to actually have that experience of. There's two things that Magic Online does that is kind of bad for paper. It breaks the format too quickly because you have so many high caliber players, the ability to And Wizards thinks that one of the, I guess, magical things about Magic is when a format is brand new and people are trying to figure out new combinations and decks and whatnot. And MTGO speeds that process up infinitely.
Yes.
Whereas if MTGO didn't exist, man, it would take forever for a deck like Mono Blue Devotion to actually come to existence. But on MTGO, there's so many players testing and playing and whatnot. So I can understand. Maybe I don't agree with why they don't release the sets till 2 weeks later and whatnot. I can because I want the sets now. But
Yeah.
I can understand their point on that. And same with Redemptions. I kind of have a problem with Redemptions being. I think Redemptions is like a month behind even that. You can't start redeeming cards, and
Right.
that just seems so pointless to me.
Well,
But business standpoint, they're trying not to compete with their own game, which I don't understand. If the revenue is so good on MTGO, then what? I don't know why they care.
right.
I think there's no reason it shouldn't be just like separate but equal. Basically, they're like basically Magic Online right now is just it's a fun thing for some people, but there's no we get shafted basically all the time.
Yeah, it's
in
like
any
second-class
comparison.
citizenship.
In any
basically.
comparison to paper Magic, like Magic Online is always like second class. There's no comparison there.
Like for example, when we just had the previous standard cycle out, when we lost the entire block. Okay, I understand that we got to be a week or two behind as far as when it releases. But why then would you also change the format of standard the exact same time as paper Magic? So now the people online can only basically play block for their standard.
And that was a confusing time too, because like I didn't know that the legend rule didn't change yet and all this other stuff. So I was playing like it had already changed because there was cube drafts up at the time, because it changed in paper, but it didn't change on Magic Online. So I lost the cube draft because I tried to clone one of his legends to kill it, and or clone one of my own legends and try to get another one or something like that. And it was like, oh, never mind. Nothing actually happens.
The homepage never says anything of value at all. Like, when I got onto the homepage after this whole Mox debacle, I figured I was going to do a little bit of research and see what, Wizards wanted to, their side of the story, and there was nothing about it. It was just like, oh, until further notice, like, all daily events have been suspended.
Yeah, you have to go like off site to find other people that have talked to Wizards. I mean, that's another complaint I kind of have with Wizards is their website's pretty scattered and terrible too. I mean, there's definitely complaints to be made about Wizards. I totally agree with it, but I don't know, Kibler's rant was, and it was emotions talking, but I don't think we should then, if it is emotions talking, then we shouldn't be taking him as serious as we're taking him. Because when people are angry, they're gonna go overboard.
Well, again, I think that, I don't know. I think you're kind of taking it the wrong. I didn't take it to mean what you took it to mean. I took it to mean as if, like, he was basically just saying, you need to fix this or get rid of it. Like, and I agree with that. Like, it needs to be fixed. We as MTGO players have just let it fester and fester and fester and just sat there and took it and took it and took it. And let's face it, Wizards is owned by Hasbro, which is a business. If they can get away with not fixing something and still making the money, they're not going to fix it. That's not how big businesses work. The only way it's going to get fixed is if someone like Kibler, who's got a voice in the community, does go off on this crazy-ass rant. And let's face it, it worked. Like, they're fixing shit now. Like,
I've seen the same thing in StarCraft, too. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the StarCraft scene at all, but I mean, this is kind of an aside, but they didn't have land for a really long time, and then they had a tournament that was like horribly crippled by disconnects the entire time, and they were like, okay, well, I still think they don't have land, but they're realizing that land is an important aspect to actually add to the game because, and this is like with Riot too, because they just can't have a tournament on just online only. It doesn't work. This is the reason why the MOCs isn't exactly going well, or hasn't been going well, basically. In all
honesty, though, MTGO hasn't been going well for 10 years, though. If you really compare it to any other online game, it's pitiful. Yep. For 17 million paper Magic players, how come we only have at any given time? And MTGO has actually exploded since Ravnica. But like I remember Dark Ascension release, there was like 1,000 people on the entire server. And I mean, on the entire MTGO, 1,000 people. You can find that you can find that in the most obscure game. You can find that in like Angry Birds Online. I mean, if that's a big game, but I mean, obscure games will have 1,000 people online with this major, and I think it is. See, I disagree with what MJ is saying here that it doesn't hurt Hasbro if no one complains. It really does hurt them because there's people not playing because of the MTGO experience is so bad. When they forced me to play beta, I didn't play that entire time until I tried beta. I'm like, this is awful. I'm not playing this, and until they brought back up the original MTGO, I didn't even play. So they lost out on my revenue that I kind of brought to the table right there. And I'm sure there's if I was like that, I'm sure there's other people that just refused to play while they were trying to shove beta down our throat. So it is kind of these awful decisions the MTGO has been making is hurting them.
Yeah, but you gotta realize Hasbro last year made $4.9 billion or $4.09 billion. Your revenue, it doesn't affect them. Like, it has to be like a mass exodus or someone in the community that's got a voice like Brian Kibler to say these things. Because like I said, this is not the first time this has happened. It's happened 4 other times.
It's happened to me.
And grinders have, said shit and stuff and it went off on it, but nobody cared. Nobody listened to it. But now that you do have a Brian Kibler saying stuff like this, it is getting fixed. And I don't think he's actually, not within his right to say stuff like this. And you say, yeah, Magic has done a lot for him, and this is true. However, he's done a lot for Magic too. And yeah, he gets fees for appearances, but like I was saying before the podcast started, everybody does. This isn't a new thing. When NFL players have their Hall of Fame appearance, when Dan Marino, Boomer Esiason, and Joe Montana show up, they're making money to do that. They're not just coming by to say hello. That's how this works. This is a business.
Well, I disagree. If I was Wizards, I would have nothing to do with Brian Kibler from this day on. He's toxic. He sounds like a spoiled brat to me. And he has every... let the anger get to him, and that's... I'd be the same way. I'd be upset too. I'm sure I would have spouted out some stuff too, but I think I would be in the wrong for doing that. And I don't know. It's hard to place yourself outside of the situation when you're inside the situation, it's hard to place yourself outside the situation. So I can empathize with Brian there, but still, he's the whole burning the house down, and I found Reed Duke's quote, like, because after Brian Kibler tweeted that, someone retweeted, I'm after reading this article, I've never played online, but after reading this article, I never will. And then Reed Duke's comment was perfect. He says, "It breaks my heart to read this. Brian is right to have." Brian is right that having a high-stakes tournament crash is horrible and unacceptable. However, Magic Online is such a great tool for any Magic player. It's perfect for a casual player who only has time to do 1 draft a week, and it's perfect for an aspiring tournament player who wants to get to the Pro Tour. The experience that Brian happened to have his first time playing a MOCS is bad, and he's right to be angry. But playing MTGO day-to-day is not a bad experience. Also, MTGO is still a work in progress, and who knows what it might look like in a few years down the road. Please don't say you'll never try it. Now, MTGO needs change. I agree 100% there. But MTGO, that's probably why I'm so mad at Brian Kibler, because when he tells everyone to delete MTGO, and he starts lashing at it it's become a part of it's a huge part of Roguedeckbuilder.com. It's everything for Roguedeckbuilder.com. I can't go live. I don't have the equipment to do live. I don't have the player base to start doing live. And when I started playing in Salt Lake City, at the local store, I was, and I don't want to sound cocky or arrogant here, but since I played MTGO, I was so far ahead a lot of those players, even their competitive players, because you have access to compete against these amazing... I've played against basically every pro on MTGO. Mm-hmm. I've played against, I think, in my opinion, the best MTGO player is Batutina. I've played against him many, many times, and you have to adjust. You start to learn. It's a great tool to become a better player, and it's. If I had to choose between paper and MTGO, I'd probably choose MTGO just because of the convenience.
Absolutely.
In one.
And so, I did. Yeah. I literally have sold off all my paper cards. Well, I've not sold them off, but they're in consignment at my local comic shop right now. And every month or so, I come down and pick up 15.
So why burn down the house then?
But
why focus on one bad thing and say the entire thing is so horrible? We need to. It's just too far. And he sounds like a spoiled brat. And that's. I'm sorry. I used to like the guy too. He was one of the very very few people that I interacted with at the Pro Tour. I mean, you had a lot of cliques at the Pro Tour. My experience of Pro Tour Dragon's Maze, you had people stayed in little cliques. Brian was one of the few that actually worked the crowd, that actually went and took pictures with people. I had a lot of fun
talking. So what
talking.
you're saying is he was a decent ambassador for the game of Magic.
Like I said, burn the house down.
Yeah.
But that's my unhumble opinion.
Well, the one thing I have to disagree with Reed Duke, and I do actually agree with most of his points, but the fact that it's a work in progress, this thing has gone live on June 24th of 2002.
Yeah.
And why do they have
11 years? How much are we supposed to
appreciate
wait?
Your suggestions. Why do they even have that on there? I've suggested so many things, and it just goes in one. Why in the world wouldn't you fix the chat client? Why in the world? I mean, these are like the easiest fixes in the entire world. And so I'm with you. It's one person says it's nepotism, that Wizards hires friends or people within the community. And see that what made actually like League of Legends pretty good, or Dota, is those games were made by gamers, but the gamers had the foresight to actually go get professional programmers. They didn't ooh, you're a fellow gamer too, I'm going to give you the head programming job. They actually went outside and got people that can do the job. And that's something you can't say for Wizards. They always hire within.
Good luck with that, Nate.
I'd like to say that with the nepotism thing in League of Legends, because I've played since the beta, I've played since the beginning. They had the original game was basically all friends. Like everybody in the company knew each other as friends before they actually made the company of Riot, because they developed most of them developed Dota before, and they worked with the same people who are making Dota 2 now and Han. They're all the same group of people who made Dota, more or less, and so they were basically all friends at the beginning, and you could see that the game itself suffered for it, and they'd been getting away from that now, but at the beginning they were, it was like they built it up inside and internally, where they made decisions that were like questionable, but they built it up inside and they said, okay, this decision is really good, like we need to push this, and it just made the game suffer. So I see what you're saying, but I don't think Magic Online is the same way in this case, because I don't think they're hiring anybody at all.
Because let's face it, WotC, while a company, Hasbro's in charge of them, and Hasbro is a company, and a big company at that.
I just think they don't have anybody at all working on Magic Online, to be honest with you.
No,
like if they
really
had people working on it, all of these issues that have been issues for years would be resolved. Like there's no question. They must have like 5 or something people working on this thing, and that's just unacceptable. Yeah. Like there's no reason for it. They're making enough money off this where they should put more people on, because more people will play. If the client gets better and everything gets fixed, more people will end up playing Magic Online.
Yeah, that's I totally agree there. Like I said, my laundry list is as long as anyone's with MTGO, and even like the Star City Opens and TCG Max Point series have been really good for Magic in general too, because if anyone has been around a long enough time, Pro Tours were kind of anything that Magic itself organized used to be poorly run. Yeah. And then so Star City came along and did their own little tournament series in TCG, and it forced Magic to actually revamp how they did tournaments and actually focus on those as well. So I get what you're saying there, that they need to get their priorities straight. I think they need to just I guess it's just they've always had the mentality that people are going to buy their product no matter what. Yeah, and if they want to continue to have
that's it right there. That is exactly what it is. If people are like, that's my point. If people are going to do it, then why would they worry about fixing it?
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's enough about MOCSageddon.
I love you, Brian Kibler.
It's going to keep coming back, too. That's the problem, though.
Yeah, I know, right?
Until Wizards actually fixes it.
Yeah. So I think this is funny, too, because like I've always said, the very first question I've always wanted to ask you live on the air was, what is a rogue deck? Because I think we disagree with this, actually. But Unfortunately, this MOCs thing happened, so I thought that was more important. But now we're going to talk about what a rogue deck is. So, Kevin, what is your definition of what is a rogue deck?
A rogue deck is not, it's the opposite of a net deck, I guess. It's something that isn't established. Mm-hmm. And I'd even say that you can play a net deck. A net deck can be a rogue deck.
Ooh, we actually do agree. Holy crap. I didn't think we were going to.
It's something that isn't in this tier 1 mentality. These are the decks you're only allowed to. There's this spike in the Spike community. I guess I got if no one knows, I use the terms Johnny, Timmy, Spike a lot. Go read Mark Rosenwater's article if you don't know what that means. Anyway, but there is this mentality in the Spike community that's only acceptable to play a certain amount of decks. Like these top 5 decks are the only things that's acceptable to play at a tournament. It's almost like they and it just, my very first tournament experience was awful because I had a lot of people just get angry with me for not running like this tier 1 deck. I wanted to run my own deck. I liked this card, and that's what kind of solidified my desire to build rogue decks. So it can be a net deck. Like if you take for example, Travis Wu puts out a deck, and he just put out, I believe, a modern token storm type deck. That would still be a rogue deck, even though it's been solidified as a deck. When it would become a net deck is when everyone starts playing it, and they don't even know why they're playing it. They just know that it's a good deck, and then it just gets so refined, and then no one makes any additions to it. And that's kind of the opposite of what I'm trying to do at Rogue Deck Builder. And I think Aristocrats is a great example of how a rogue deck turns into a net deck.
Yeah, I think that was just people and we talked about this last week, people overestimating what a Pro Tour means and just going, that this one I have to go ahead and play this deck, but in reality it doesn't really mean that much. It's just what they're doing for that meta at that time.
Well, we're spoiled now, because what used to happen is there was a clear, easily defined, clear, powerful deck. It was the most powerful. Delver was the most powerful deck. There wasn't any other options anywhere. It was just had the most broken cards. And before that, we had Cobblade. And before that, you had Bloodbraid Elf, Cascade. Those were the clear decks. And we haven't had a clear deck since Delver. I mean, this last whole Ravnica Innistrad block together in Standard, there was no clear best deck. And so it's almost like I existed too late for Rogue Deck Builder. Because right now, rogue decking doesn't mean as much as it did back during Delver and Cobblade, because you can run. I love Standard now because of that.
Yeah.
But
well, see, I think people misconstrue rogue deck for homebrew a lot.
Yeah,
which is kind of why I wanted to talk about this a little bit, because a lot of people think, if you're playing a Conley Woods deck, you're playing a net deck. Well, maybe, but I doubt it. Most of the time, it's a rogue deck. You might not have brewed it yourself, but it's not the same thing. A rogue deck can be a homebrew, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I'm a pillar for homebrews. A lot of times I do, I do run decks that are mainstream decks a lot of times, and I'm not one of those person that has to run his own homebrews. I went to a tournament recently and ran Mono Black Devotion because I just thought I'd do great. And I don't feel horrible for doing that.
And you really shouldn't. That's the thing. It all depends on what you're trying to do.
If you think it's a good deck, it's a good deck regardless.
Right.
It's all about how you play it at that point. It doesn't have to be a rogue deck in order to be good.
Right.
Yeah.
Why would you purposely play a rogue deck that you know is going to do worse than a better deck that you know is just better in the current meta?
Yep. And then that's what I guess my channel is trying to do, is actually find decks that do can be tournament play. And I think I've been able to do that a couple times. I mean, I have a lot of these comments on my latest video about what an awful, horrible player I am and whatnot. And I'm like, oh, that's nice you think that. One of these comments was bugging me earlier this morning about how they're never going to watch my channel because of all my misplays. Well, that's the beauty of what I'm trying to do here. This black-red discard deck that I came out, I have absolutely no clue how to play a black-red control discard deck. This is a brand new experience for me. So I'm glad I'm making misplays. I'm glad I'm making mistakes, and you guys can all see my mistakes and learn from them. and whatnot. I'm sorry that I'm gonna lose some subscribers because I'm making so horrible, awful misplays, and I should go slit my wrist and kill myself or whatever they suggest. But the Magic,
Oh,
to
so
me,
you mean
I'm
my,
not a
my comment
spike.
every day Monday?
I'm not a spike. My goal is not to win at all costs and hide in the closet until I do. Like, Magic for me is an experience of and that's kind of why how like Travis Wu kind of bugs me because if you've ever watched his
I love
stream,
Travis Wu.
he talks way too much about bodybuilding and eating kale.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
it's
who
just
he is.
annoying. But his mentality of when he builds deck, a lot of times he's trying to challenge himself.
Yes.
And he's trying to, like, hey, this card and this card, they work together. Let's see if we can make a deck. That was my whole thing with Hell's Lookout. When I made the Hell's Lookout deck, I'm like, someone suggests, is like, have you ever tried Hellrider and Tandem Lookout? I'm like, whoa, that's an awesome combo. Let's see if we can make a deck out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because eventually I cut the Tandem Lookouts and had this kind of black-red tempo deck that I was able to be quite successful with in the standard premieres and the dailies and the two-man queues and whatnot. But I mean, it starts with an idea, and it's the whole process of building and refining a deck that I find the most enjoyable thing about Magic. It isn't winning. I mean, my PTQ win was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a great experience to go to the Pro Tour. But people, I think they don't understand that there's some of us out there, there's some of us Johnnies who that's our whole reason for playing Magic is the deck building experience.
Nate, what do you think?
Well, I think that you hit the nail right on the head. That a lot of people don't understand that some people just get enjoyment out of building and refining a deck, and don't get really that much enjoyment about winning,
Or even playing for that matter.
Winning,
if you're me.
winning is nice. Obviously winning is nice. You like winning. You like getting the prizes, but it's not your main goal. Which some people just can't fathom that. You see this, in every single game, basically everything, forever. Like I'll use League of Legends because I play that game all the time.
Welcome to the League of
played...
Legends podcast.
Well, hey,
we've mentioned it like 8 times already.
Hey, Kibler mentioned it. We
yeah,
gives us permission, right? So no, but in League of Legends, right? So there's champions who are considered OP. Like there's like 100-something champions, but there's champions that are considered OP. And if you're not playing the OP champions, people are going to rage at you because you're doing something that's not in the meta. And that's just it's the way every game works forever.
Well, that's like kind of bringing that back to Magic. Like when you try to test a deck out in the tournament practice, and it's like almost impossible to do it without spending tickets because everyone, you're not playing a tier 1 net deck, then I gotta just leave the match.
Yep.
And I find that funny too because I was playing. The decks that I've been
Mm-hmm.
playing with. Like they're not good decks. Like more or less because I just can't afford to get the better cards for them. But I
think your green blacklist is very good, and in a lot of ways reminiscent to what Kibler ended up playing. To be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good, but I think I need to refine it a lot more and add more money cards to it, which is whatever. It's neither here nor there. Can't afford it, but I was playing in the tournament practice. I was having a lot of luck, but then people started like dropping every game, and I was like, okay, this is cool. So then I took it into the 2-man queues, and I was like I destroyed this like really loose like Esper control player, and I'm just like, why won't people actually like give this a chance? Like it's just because it's not the top deck doesn't mean it's a bad deck.
Amen to that.
Rant.
No, I mean it is the truth though. I mean it is an actual thing. I can't count how many times like I was testing out and it's okay. I can't count because it's like 2 or 3 tops. Because I don't really play serious decks, so I mostly play in the just for fun queues. But like with my debt deck that I recently had, that Nate watched me play and everything, I think that's actually a pretty serious deck. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna test this out, and I beat we beat the 2 of the Boros decks. The big Boris deck, and then the new one, and then also we beat something else. I want to say it was like
I think it was Mono Red.
Mono Red,
like Mono Red Devotion or something.
And then we lost horribly to a new green red list that I had never seen before.
Yeah, it was like green red aggro.
Really
it was a sweet
good.
Deck.
Yeah, but I've never seen it since either. Like it's not even a deck. It was someone's rogue deck, and it just smashed me. and it was awesome. Like I almost wanted to be like, "Hey, dude, can I get your list?" Because like I'm gonna steal it. No, but you know, oh that could bring us to our next topic. Now a lot of decks are, it's a community thing. Um, when do you think a person should get credit for a deck and when they shouldn't? Like, in other words, if you take BBD's Mono Black Devotion, how many cards do you have to change where it becomes your own deck?
That wasn't BBD's devotion.
All
The
right,
deck
well,
was just a baby.
We'll worry about semantics later. But that list.
Well, first of all, if you really want to go back, I mean, I had similar decks to that on my channel before even Theros was released, and Mono Black Devotion was just that was such a duh deck. I mean, the deck built itself.
Mhm.
You basically took every deck that was decent or every card that was decent and threw it together. It kind of reminds me of Jund from
Yeah.
last. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't even say there is a creator of Mono Black Devotion.
Well,
I just think that it was just a duh deck.
Well, Nate here can actually verify that even prior to the Black Devotion list, and even prior to your video with Dead of the Debt list, I had a very similar Mono Black Devotion list that used Dead of the Debt list prior to like everything, and he can verify it because I send him lists like every 3 seconds.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah,
played
well-
against the primitive version of it before you made the video too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
The
good.
the what I would say when people like quote unquote steal your deck
Mhm.
is when like Ali Antraza, when he posted the bug Immortal Servitude list on Star City Games
Mhm.
and put 2 Snapcaster mages in there, and it was a direct like blatant ripoff of my bug Immortal Servitude disc. Because I'm sure there's other people that were building bug Immortal Servitude decks. I mean, again, it was pretty. Not duh, but you could see the synergy. Anyone that is a very synergistic player could see that there's
Mhm.
Synergy between sack outlets and Immortal Servitude, and then get them back with Blood Arch. But when they blatantly copied the list, and the only reason I was playing 2 Snapcaster mages was I only had 2 Snapcaster mages, and that's when I get a little bit irked that they don't give a little bit of a shout out of where they sourced it when it's that blatant.
Now, do you think if someone comes up with an idea that is the focal part of the deck, should they get it? They get credit or no? Like, for example, say
Credit. I don't think the credit really matters that much because it's such a. I don't know. You should just be satisfied enough that you knew that if you make a rogue deck or you make a homebrew and you know that you did that yourself without getting any sources, that should be satisfaction enough. You don't need to go through the internet and be like, that's my deck.
Well, I can agree with that to a point, but let's take it into like the real world, like where someone from Star City or something comes up with a deck and someone from Channel Fireball rips it off. Now, they're obviously competing for credit because that's currency in the market. Like if you want someone to go into your channel over somebody else's channel, you got to have some sort of street cred or internet cred or whatever the heck it's called to get them over. So wouldn't that actually be kind of important?
Yeah, it is, and it's tacky not to, say where you got the inspiration from. I'm setting myself up, I guess, to be chastised by you because I totally ripped off your performance. And I was going to give you credit, and I forgot about it.
Booyah! No, I'm kidding.
Because MJ did was the one.
Oh, yeah.
You were watching the one drop.
I was watching your Immortal Spam video.
Yeah, and you mentioned like, why don't you put Perforos in it? And at first I'm like, why the hell would I put Perforos in this deck? It's not red. And then all of a sudden it clicked. I'm like, oh my god, Perforos would be amazing because then I could just everything back and then it clicks. So you get inspiration from little things like that too. And
oh yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like I don't deserve all the credit because, I mean, I was actually I think Nate, I was messing around with a Perforos and Assemble the Legion. I think it was.
You made it.
Yeah, and it was kind of meh.
You made it the Immortal Spam list too.
Yeah, I made kind of an Immortal Spam list sort of too, but mine was like all 1-drops that were like 2/1s, and basically the idea was just to run them into everything, just nonstop, just attack, don't matter what's blocking you, and then eventually Immortal Servitude with Perforos in play and just win like that. But so I mean, like, I sent you off a text, whatever, and I'll be honest, I was a little bit salty that it kind of got a big response, and then there was like this whole epic story of Kevin, the epic mage, on your channels. You know, what will I do? I'll pray to the god Perforus. I'm like, really? So I'm the god Perforus? Okay.
Oh, that was Jonas anyway.
I knew it wasn't. I knew it wasn't
Yeah.
you, but it was just kind of humorous to me, and I'm like, oh, really? But yeah, I mean that's not actually the point of this. The point is like, because I mean you and I have talked about it before, like especially with when you were talking about the Bug Immortal Servitude deck. I mean, it was obviously very prominently splayed on the mothership, you know, due to LSV's article, and someone kind of just was like, oh, I'll just take this and add 2 things and call it my own. And that's my point. Like where, like how many cards would you say, or is it even cards? Is it changing the concept of the deck or something else where you go, okay, this is my inspiration, but this is truly my own product because I've done X, X, and Y.
Yeah, well, you can't be 100% sure that they really did get. There's been times I've been accused of like stealing people's deck, and I literally had no clue that it existed. Travis Wu and I seem to be a lot of times on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
He just barely came out with a deck called like the Token Storm deck.
Mm-hmm.
I actually still have from months ago. Still have the videos. I just didn't publish them of me playing that deck because it was the videos ended up being so horrible because it was Magical Christmas Land big time, and so I never published it. And then that deck's kind of taken off on his YouTube on the channel Fireball, and now I'm kind of kicking myself. But if it's almost the exact same list that I was running months ago and whatnot, and it just seems that everyone has a starting point, and you're going to come up with the same conclusions because they're a lot of times going to be the most synergistic or most obvious. And so it is possible for 2 people at the same time to come up with the same deck.
I would say more than possible, like more than probable that like 1,000 people are doing
and especially
the same
Mono Blue Devotion too. A lot of those teams were not even collaborating, and they all came up with like the French team and the Star City team and whatnot.
I came up with a Mono Blue Devotion list weeks before the Pro Tour. Like,
it was on MTGO weeks before. That's what people
before Theros even came out. Like, I came up with the list. Like, you could see it on my tapped out. Like, it's on there. People in my playgroup at school and in my local shop were like you made the deck that won the Pro Tour like before it even came out. And I was like, yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I personally can't count how many times I've had to scrap things just because like I would be doing something and then I would see it on your channel, Kevin, like almost the exact same thing that I was working on. And
I've had to have Travis Wu too.
Yeah,
that's... Like Travis Wu beat me to this one, the Nivik Cyclops. I'm like,
Yeah.
Like now everyone's gonna, now I was kind of mad at.
You literally just at that point you're like, okay, I can't even do this now because now it's just gonna look like I'm just ripping them off. And I was
kind of mad at, if you remember Wes, I was kind of mad at him because he was like, "Okay, don't publish this. Let's refine this deck." Because he had like sometimes I jump the gun, and that's what people like this black red discard. A lot of people might be upset. I'm already starting to get the dislikes for it because I go 0-4. Spoiler alert! In this video, I lose every game, and I don't even lose them. I lose them pretty miserably, but I still published it because it takes a long time.
Well, you should, and that's the other thing people don't realize is when people are watching Channel Fireball and Star City and everything else, they're probably only publishing their best stuff. Like they're going to publish. I mean, well, now I will give LSV credit. LSV publishes his scrub outs all the time.
Yeah.
Like especially in like drafting, cube drafting, like you'll look at it and you'll be like, oh, 4 videos. I guess he didn't do very good this time.
Guess he tried to draft Mono Black
or
Storm
I guess
or something.
Yeah, it's like you see a cube draft and it's like, oh, 4 videos. I guess he didn't go Mono Red. But like, I think it's important that people see the bad just as well as the good.
It's a learning experience. That's what I'm saying. I learned from that BR disc. Now that I'm running that deck, I'm doing a lot better than I was. Well, but that's the whole thing. I think that's part of the beauty is actually showing it before. But I mean, and going back to the Nivik Cyclops, like Wes really wanted us to refine this and get it perfect before. And then what happens? Travis Wu the next day releases the Nivik Cyclops. I'm like, now I can't release this. So I mean, if you have an idea, just go with it. Just record it, and I mean, who cares if you're? I'll admit, I'm not a good. I'm more of a deck builder than a player. Yeah. And people need to understand that. I mean, I made a PT. And my whole PTQ story was kind of like a fluke anyway. I wasn't even trying to play in a PTQ. I was bored of moving, So I happened to have a modern deck on me and had store credit to enter the PTQ and entered it. And I don't know. That's the whole. So people might, get the wrong idea that I'm this high caliber player or claim that I'm a high caliber player. I'm not. I love interesting synergistic combos.
I would say you're a good player.
You have the claim now. You go. You went to the Pro Tour. That's more than anyone could say most of the time.
That's exactly right. You played in a Pro Tour. Seriously, how many thousands of people can actually just say that? Not many.
Yeah, I guess even locally around here, I think people get the wrong idea of what that means and whatnot. Because I just had to win an 85-man tournament, basically. And yes, it was. Yes, in our play group here in Salt Lake, I would say there probably was 5 to 10 people in that group that had made the Pro Tour. In fact, 3 other people from that PTQ ended up traveling to other PTQs and winning those. So out of that group, we had 4 people go to the Pro Tour.
Wait a second.
Just from that tournament. So it wasn't a joke. Yes, we're here in Utah, in the middle of nowhere.
The phone. You only had an 85-man tournament in Salt Lake City?
It was a blizzard.
Okay.
I
was gonna say,
I was waiting.
I can't even. I have 200-person PTQs over here in Connecticut. We're tiny.
That's what the one this weekend was, or last weekend.
It
was literally a blizzard, and the timing was it was the same day as game day. So the store that actually had the PTQ was more of a casual store, and so they didn't want to kill their they didn't have room for both, so they didn't want to kill their game day, so they held it after game day. So it was a late tournament too. So it really ticked off a lot of players. So a lot of players didn't even show up because of that. And like I said, it was a blizzard. It was weird for March. It's like a whiteout outside, so a lot of the people that were going to travel probably didn't end up making it. So, but it was, like I said, that the caliber player was still there though. So if people want to diss on, if they did go to Denver, was a huge tournament, and the guy that actually beat in the finals, he went to Denver and actually won out the entire thing. He beat everyone, perfect record with the exact same deck. And Denver is known for having some very high. That's where Conley Woods is.
Yeah.
So.
Well, do you think that if the tournament was a full tournament, then do you think you would have done as well as you did?
Well, that's Magic for if anything would have been changed. That who knows what it would have been. Yeah. I was that was that's what I talked about in this BR Discord. Is sometimes you just have to
even
roll
with your choice of deck, though. I'm saying, with
the
your
deck
choice
was
of deck.
Perfect choice.
Yeah.
I would have chosen that deck again, and because I actually chose it. Well, first of all, it was one of my only decks that I had on me. But I was thinking that Splinter Twin was going to be a big deal, and Soul Sisters has a natural mainboarded counter for Splinter Twin. They have to deal with your Soul Sisters before they can go off, and it's such a headache. And it's funny because I never actually did face a Splinter Twin deck, but it was also very good against Jund, extremely good against Jund, and extremely good against UWR. At least the mid-range version that uses Geist St. Trap. And so as far as a metagame choice, even though I didn't purposely choose it, it ended up being a great choice. And it was kind of an underdog story because I started out the day 0-1-1. I lost round number 1 to an Infect deck and drew against a UW control deck. And so I literally had to win the rest of the tournament out. And so it was a great experience.
I watched the video. I just don't remember, anything about it. But I'm sure it's vivid in your mind.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was and even if it, an 85-man tournament is still 8 rounds. 200-man tournament was, you probably add on a round or 2. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's still really impressive to me anyway. So.
And the caliber of player really does matter too, because I went to a states tournament that was huge, and it was just so much easier to win those matches. Every match at this PTQ was pretty tough to win, and they're all nail biters and whatnot. It's nothing compared to the Pro Tour. That was a eye opener for me because everyone there is your local, your local badass.
Well, also, didn't you tell me that didn't you beat Shuhei?
No, I lost.
Who did you beat? You beat somebody, I thought.
I beat. He was the 2011 Player of the Year.
Yeah,
Yunya Inaga.
Yeah,
and
Inaga.
In my opinion, I don't want to sound like getting cocky or arrogant
Yeah,
here.
but I'm just saying, like, you're sitting here and saying, like, oh, I'm not that good of a player, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, okay, you're being humble. That's great. But in reality, let's just bring it down to brass tacks. You're actually very good.
I'm a horrible player on tilt, and even a horrible player, even a worse
everybody
player,
gets bad on tilt.
intoxicated.
I've seen massive pros go crazy on tilt, where you're like, wait, what are they doing?
And I don't know why. Why does Wizards choose a venue that has a bar on site?
Oh boy.
Poor planning on their part.
Or yours.
I blame them for my bad day too.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You made it to day 2. It's not even like this is the sad story of like Kevin going to Pro Tour and like scrubbing out like in the first 3 rounds. This is Kevin going to day 2 and beating a 2011 Player of the Year and doing so. So I mean, you say like, "Oh, I'm not that great of a player." Come on, BS, man. I'm just straight up calling it.
Even most pros can't even claim that they made day 2 at a
Well,
pro.
I was
On
talking
their
to
first
Conley Woods.
Yeah.
Before we even started, like the day I was talking, like, because there's only really one person I'm a big Conley Woods fan.
You and me both, buddy.
And so that's the only person I cared about talking to. So I went and talked to him, and I just like, hey, it's my first pro tour. Whatnot? Can you sign this card for me? He's like, don't worry about your first pro tour. You know, I didn't make it. He's like, he went like 0-8 his first pro tour, and we completely scrubbed out and whatnot. So he was like, he was just like, just have fun. And that's what my whole mentality was. Is like, I was nervous though because I was kind of representing Gathering Magic, and I did have something to prove. I had a lot of naysayers. I had a lot of people that. I'm not the most popular person in Salt Lake. I've rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. It's because it is my anti-spike mentality. I guess that's the best way to put it. And I won't nerd out too much here, but you know, I'm a huge personality theory geek, and my personal my personality type's an ENFP, which is the nicknamed the champion. So when I see things going on, like if I see other people getting bullied or whatnot, I tend to react. And I guess there's this kind of unspoken rule in Magic that you don't interfere on games in progress. You know, even if a person is completely sharking the other guy. And so I've got some people that are extremely angry at me because one of them was, and I almost got kicked out of the game store for this. One of the experiences with that was there was a brand new player at his first game day ever. And in his sealed pool, he had a Wild Beastmaster and a bunch of like pump spells like Giant Growth. And his intentions were clearly there. His intentions were to Giant Growth his dude and attack to give all the rest of his guys +3/+3.
Right.
And the way he did is like, I'm an attack with all my guys and Giant Growth my. And so it was the way he phrased it. And this guy totally, you know, he wanted to get that game day mat or whatever it was. Totally was like, nope, that doesn't work that way. You can't take it back. And the intentions were clear there. And I basically got in that guy's face and was like, you're going to do this at a game day? That is the lowest of low. You know, type thing. And I guess in some spike mentality, that's clearly like they need to teach these new players a message.
Well, actually, if I'm not mistaken, game day is like the lowest REL there is. And
yeah, you can take that
I
stuff.
think actually what he did is actually considered illegal for that.
Yeah,
REL.
yeah, but a new player doesn't know that.
Right.
And whatnot. So I've kind of with the competitive crowd, especially, I don't know how it is where you guys are. They actually take pride.
No idea.
And if you miss your triggers, they take pride in calling you out on that. I'm dealing a little bit with my local game store. It's come to my attention that we have a player that's saying you missed your trigger, you don't get it, and that drives me insane.
I mean,
Our game store is brand new. Some of these kids have never even played Magic before, and this guy is just going to tell them you missed your trigger. And then you talk to him about it, and he's like, I'm trying to teach these guys how. I'm doing them a favor. It's like kind of like this tough love mentality. And in my mind, no, you're just being a douchebag.
Well, at FM, it doesn't even work like that. Like, they changed it for the Pro Tour and competitive REL, but not FM.
Yeah, Nate's 100% correct.
Yeah.
You can go back as long as the turn hasn't passed, I think, right?
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, and you have more time now to actually catch your triggers. And
Well, and you're also, I believe you're supposed to remind your opponent. Like, it's not like it's like a mandatory trigger. You're supposed to remind your opponent.
And I think outside players can as well. I think that's the difference between competitive REL and casual or whatever is the outside
there's
players
like
can actually.
or 4 different levels of REL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, on to our next topic. I told you there wasn't going to be very many. That's why I didn't even plan anything out. We're already at like an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a question I've always wanted answered from you, Kevin. What the heck's with the pirates?
I
What
don't know.
does
I
that
like
have
pirates.
to do with rogues?
Well, when I tried to find a theme song, everyone thinks that everything I've ever done with this channel has been so spur of the moment.
Mhm.
I have absolutely no way to plan any. Like, I'm not a planner. Everything is so random.
I can
And
tell you
this is literally how the entire Rogue Deck Builder channel started. Is one day I got this crazy idea. I was so sick of Delver and Infect that I wanted to create a deck that could beat them. So I built this Dorkblade deck. This just 12 mana dorks and like all the and 8 blades, 8 swords in the deck and whatnot. And it started working really well, and it was so fun. It was just some like, and I was a huge Frank Lepore fan. That was like the only YouTube video. I wasn't a big YouTuber, and that was the only YouTube videos series that I watched was Frank Lepore. And I'm like, oh, well, Frank Lepore tried it. I'm going to try it. So and they were terrible videos. I've taken them down since because they had some copyrighted music on them and stuff like that. But,
like my first videos too.
yeah. And so I've taken them down, and I kind of wish I still had them. But anyway, it was more for me that I'm like, oh, this is fun. So then after I realized that I can't publish these things for copyrighted material, I'm like, oh, I need to find a theme song. And so I've always liked that song, Drunken Sailor, and it just kind of all fell together. I've always liked kind of pirate themes. I had a pirate font on my computer, and it was one of those things like I need to make
What
a logo.
does a pirate font look like? Is there like peg legs
Pieces
and
of
eye
eight. The
patches
font
and
that I use
parrots?
on everything, on like the titles and stuff.
Oh
that's
that's
the pirate.
I
it's
would
called
never
Pieces
have
of
guessed
Eight,
that. Never have
and
guessed
it's
that.
like
Yeah.
I don't know why.
There's some trivia for you people that are still listening. The
So-
magic word today is to prove that you've listened all the way. Instead of like last time it was Fruit Loops, this time it's Pieces of Eight. So go ahead and put that in the comments if you listened all the way to the end. Go ahead, Kevin.
So I mean, that's just I've always and this has always been a kind of fun, catchy song, and it literally was for them like, cool, that's my theme song now. Cool, that's my title. Oh, look, that's I've always kind of like I have some pirate paraphernalia. I've been pirates for Halloween before, that type of stuff. So I'm like, okay, and the pirates are rogues, right? The term rogue means like, what is even a rogue? Even?
Anyway,
So I mean,
Okay,
so-
dictionary definition time.
go ahead, Nate.
What?
No.
Dictionary definition.
No. We're not going to be talking about privateers in this podcast.
I mean, it just all fell in place, though. I think it's a great theme. It made interesting
Well-
art. It was easy to work with, and
all right, so Nate, tell me how you became onto Rogue. Like, how did you find Rogue Deck Builder?
How did I find
Like,
Rogue Deck Builder?
Yeah, the channel.
That's actually a good question. I don't remember. I believe it was I believe it was stumbling across the Bug Immortal Servitude list, like the deck in general, and I was just like, oh, this deck seems really cool. Like, I want to watch these videos, and I started watching, just a little bit of all of the videos to, try to figure out what the channel was about, and that's just kind of how I ended up watching the channel in general and following it.
All right, my turn, I guess. I actually started. I wasn't really interested in Magic Online until I started watching a drafter, which I don't think he does it anymore because I don't subscribe to him because he didn't do it for a long time. But his name was Argonomic, and he kind of just drafted very badly, and it was kind of fun to watch. And then from there, I found Draft Magic, which at the time I really liked because it had Brewing on a Budget was a show. It was produced by a couple named Scott and Abby, and what their thing was they would do like 5 decks, and then for a quote unquote season, and then you would vote on one of the decks, and they would take it into a daily, and they were all budgeted at like I think 25 tickets or less, and that was really really cool. Anyway, they kind of disappeared by the wayside also. And I was doing a YouTube search or something for like Magic videos online or something or other, and I came across Rogue Deck Builder, and I started up the video, and I heard Drunken Sailor, and I am a huge fan of like Celtic punk and things like that, and that is a commonly covered song, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And literally, that's the only reason I watched the video, to be completely honest, was the theme song. And I'm just being straight with you. I watched it and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And I subscribed, and then I think you did the first Rogue Deck Builder of the Month contest, and I decided I was going to enter. So what I did was I made a video there's no videos of this either because I couldn't figure out how to operate Camtasia. But I made a Stuffy Doll deck with phylactery liches and like just crazy stupid stuff. And the win condition was basically just Wolf Run Ramp. And like I said, I messed with the videos for almost like 3 or 4 weeks before the contest ended, and I couldn't figure out how to render them or upload them or do anything with them, and they still had like this weird like black bars on all 4 sides, and so literally I didn't enter the contest. But then I was like, well, you know, I'm gonna still mess around with this and try to figure this out. So I kept playing with Camtasia. Found a bunch of like 2-hour long YouTube tutorials on how to do this, how to do that, and that's where I started learning to become better and better. Which is, if you could tell from the start of my videos till now, the quality is much better than it originally was. Like the cards aren't super fat anymore. But like, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, without trying to, you know, suck up or stick my nose up your ass or anything, like, I mean, I was kind of inspired by you to like do my own thing. So I still, again, don't know why you decided that I was the one you were gonna go, hey, yeah, you want to be a part of this thing.
I'd also like to say that I was inspired by by one of Kevin's videos on how you hated on Control because of it was blue-black Control. You were like, I hate this deck. This deck needs to go die. Like, players who play this deck are like the worst sort of players, because I was playing blue-black Control at the time, just because I found it to be a fun deck to play for myself.
Just because you're a griefer. Like we've talked about this,
no.
man. No, yeah, you absolutely are.
In EDH, I'm a griefer, but that's it. No, the only reason I even picked up the deck was because LSV was playing it, and
Granite.
Gaze of Granite is an awesome card, and nobody's playing it. How is Gaze of Granite a grief? Anyways, that's going off topic. But you made a comment in the video about how Control players were all like spikes or something like that. It was essentially like that, and I was like, wait a second, that doesn't sound right to me. Mm-hmm. Because I basically made a rogue Control deck, and I mean, I think it's a Control deck. I'd like to hear what your definition of like Control and combo and aggro is now, especially in Standard, because it's kind of not very clear.
Yeah,
well,
to me.
The UB was just that was my frustration. There was my Brian Kibble rage moment, because I literally was trying to tape videos, and whenever LSV does anything, you get the fanboys that just play that deck, and it wasn't a good deck. That was like. And I guess that's I'm sounding like a spike here now. You're not allowed to play your bad deck.
It wasn't a good deck.
It was just frustrating because I wanted to see the Jund matchups. I wanted to see, I wanted to actual playtest this deck that I was playing with, and UB Control wasn't a horrible matchup either. It was made for very boring videos, because what I had to do is I had to grind them out basically, and it was just I hate editing more than anything in the entire world.
I don't.
And so the UB Control those videos end up being like 40+ minutes, and to edit a 40+ minute video is nails on a chalkboard. And when that's every video, it just becomes so timing. So most of that was just my frustration. In fact, I just built a UB Control deck for someone at the store that wanted to play Control, and it was with Ashiok. It was a kind of cool deck, and I've played some UB Control in the past too, and whatnot, but that was just more frustration than anything, and whatnot. So I'm allowed to vent like anyone else, and it's funny how we all three of us then kind of bash on each other's playstyle, because I know that MJ hates my commander playstyle.
Oh my god! Like, let's talk about this. Actually, let's get this on record.
Well, I'll finish the question. What would you say? What determines a Control versus?
Yeah, what's Control? What's combo? What's aggro in your mind? Because on that video you were like bashing Control and saying that like spikes are playing Control and all this other stuff, which at the time is probably true. But
a lot of spikes are very. Just in essence, again, this goes into personality theory. A lot of people that are winning at all costs really are drawn to Control because they're planners, so they want to be able to know or just control the field. They want to be able to feel like they're in control. I'm the exact opposite. I a lot of times I rely on top decks a lot in my decks, or the stars aligning. Well, I admit it in a lot of my decks, and that's kind of how the decks that I build. And of course, that's very representative of the Johnny type player. So I don't know, control. I don't. It's not necessarily control decks I don't like. I don't like permission decks. I don't like completely. Let's not cast any threats of our own. Let's wait for 20 turns and finally deplete our opponent's hand before we actually do anything. And that's the kind of. I mean, I don't like hexproof decks either. I absolutely cannot stand them.
I mean,
there's the uninteractive.
They're the decks that people without skill, in my opinion, play.
Yeah. Well, and UB control's kind of like that too, because it's not like people always get mad at me for saying that like UB control's an autopilot deck. It kind of is. It's people think that there's so much skill involved, but and I guess so, because like I said yesterday,
I kind of disagree with that actually.
There's skill in playing it. But I want to say that watching LSV's videos, like basically all of his decisions were made for him. Like you can go back and look at his blue black control videos, and it'll show you that like basically all of his decisions were clear. There wasn't any real. There's room for misplays, but like anyone who's actually like familiar with the deck at all is going to make the right decision every time.
Yeah. A mediocre player, I guess. Like it does take skill, but a lot of my decks, like that BR discard deck, was hurting my mind, and that's why I think I owned 4. It was too skill based for me to actually, and I wasn't familiar with all the interactions and whatnot. But like, and control really opened my eyes yesterday when I again, a kid that we built to control. He likes control, where he was using his syncopates on creatures when he had like detention spheres and creature removal in his hand, and I had to sit him aside like, no. You have an answer for that. You don't want to be countering that.
So
you want to be detention. So I mean, there is definite decisions that have to be done. There are misplays or better plays available in certain control decks, but you're right that UB control was like, no matter what you cast, I'm countering it. Because that was the whole goal of the deck. I'm not going to let you have anything out. I don't care if it's a 1/1. I don't care if it's a Merfolk with a Pearl Trident. That's getting countered.
Well, any deck that you can make like a flowchart. Okay, did he cast a spell? Okay, counter it. Did he not do anything? Okay, mill him with
or draw 2 cards. Yeah.
Or draw cards. Yeah. Any deck that you can
that's
do
kind of
that.
how the
Like
control deck was.
That's there's something to say about, okay, is this really like skillful, or is this really what we want Magic to be?
I think almost every deck requires some amount of skill, except for, and I'm just going to put this out there and I'll put it on blast, and if anyone wants to get into it with the comments, they can. I think that the last standard's Bant Hexproof plays itself 100%. I think
played Boggles yet?
There is most hexproof decks for that matter. Like I honestly think there's no skill involved. It's just the deck wins or you lose, and that's it.
I mean, some people could argue that combo decks are like that too, but I don't think that's how. it works.
Man, there's tons of decisions in combo, because especially when you're playing against control, you have to oversee.
Every single of the 3 branches of decks, people have argued that it's just you either win or you don't.
I think that's just salty grapes.
People saying like what was the deck I was thinking? Like Charbelcher or something, or like Dredge in Legacy, which I don't. I
think
with
Dredge
that.
is complex actually.
Oh, it's way complex.
I don't understand.
Give it new player Dredge.
I've heard the argument. My play group,
I don't
I've heard
understand it. Like I will lose with a Dredge deck every time because I don't know when to dredge. I don't know what to play. I don't know what I'm doing. However, if you hand me Hexproof, I'm just going to suit up this Hexproof guy as much as possible, swing in, and hope I win.
Hexproof.
I mean, that comes down to, intuitiveness and unintuitiveness, whatever. But I don't know. I wouldn't be able to pick up a Dredge deck or Charbelcher deck, but I've heard the argument in my playgroup that is the case. That it's just
Charbelcher. I do kind of agree with that. I don't know if I've gone on record, but I've talked to you many times about it. Yeah. I know I'm terrible. Like I can sort of play standard, and I'm pretty good at commander. Modern Legacy, like I watch the videos, and I usually don't even understand what's going on. With the Charbelcher deck, I watched one video of it, and I knew exactly how to play it, because you literally are only trying to do one thing and one thing only, and that's when
you have to play around Force of Wills. You have to play it does. That deck does have some. decision making to do.
Legacy as a format has skill testers in it. Like it's just the way the format works. But I mean, we could talk about why we don't play Legacy. Budget, essentially, right?
That's why. Well, I don't play it because I don't find it.
Give me some Gaze Cradle.
Fun.
I'll play it.
I think. I think if I had the Force of Wills and I had the dual lands, like I would absolutely at least try to play Legacy.
Well, actually, I looked it up the other day because I was doing research for the article I wrote, and because I know one of the consolation prizes for the failed MOCs was a foil scrubland, so I wanted to see what the value of it was. The foil scrubland's like $55. The regular scrublands, like you can get the dual lands for like Magic Online for about $15-20 a piece.
No, the dual lands on Magic Online aren't that expensive,
Well,
but the Force of Wills and the Wastelands and all that are a lot. Like if you want to get a playset of Force of Will for your whatever deck, because Force of Wills
you almost have to play Force of Will.
Decks.
Well, let's just look at this.
They're like $80 each.
Look at this real quick on MTG Goldfish. It breaks down the prices. So standard metagame here. Mono Black Devotion is about 165 tickets.
Yeah.
Mono Blue's 243. The most expensive in what we'd call the metagame right now is Esper at 381. So we go over to Modern, and Jund is 875 tickets. Affinity is 265. Pod is 400. So right there,
and Affinity is
the
one
least
of the cheaper
expensive
decks,
deck.
too.
Yes, it's the least expensive one on this list here. Well, Soul Sisters is.
Basically,
MOC's
Opal is the only thing that you're going to be paying money for on that.
Yeah. And there. So then you go to Legacy. So even though the dual lands are so cheap because they put them as promos like crazy. Rug Delver is 1,400. UR Countertop is 975. Sneak and Show is 1,200. So even with the budget you get on MTGO, these cards that aren't hundreds of dollars like they are on Legacy, they're still pricey decks. So you're like quadruple the standard cost and double the modern cost to even play on MTGO Legacy. So I can't afford that.
Yeah,
that's
you have
way
to get fetches
too
too,
much.
and fetches are
way more expensive than even
fetches are a lot of money.
Yeah, and they really need to address that for Modern on paper, because I can't even. When my cards were stolen, I used to have all the fetch lands because I had the foresight back when Zendikar was out to stockpile on those, so I didn't run into this exact scenario that I'm having now. I can't play. The only reason I can only play decks like Soul Sisters is I don't have, and there's no one in our playgroup that even has fetch lands. So even if I wanted them, it's really
looking at the rug.
I'd have to fork out
looking
the money.
MTG Goldfish right now. Looking at the Rug Delver list, the Zendikar fetches are more expensive than the Onslaught fetches, which is ridiculous to me because they came out later. Like there should be more of them.
Yeah.
But the only reason is because they're played in Modern. Like that's ridiculous. Like
well, that's the thing.
I think that if Wizards wants to make some of these formats like more accessible, they need to reprint the cards. Like there's no.
Oh, did you hear about the Vintage?
Yes, I did hear about Vintage Masters, and that looks like a sweet format to play.
But Vintage cards are already cheap.
Yeah,
on
Vintage cards are already cheap.
Like Library of Alexandria is like, how much is Library? It's like no, it's not that expensive at all. Let me check it.
I don't think it's even played in Classic, really, though.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I don't think Library is
Library?
even that. Yeah, I mean, it's a good card, obviously. Like, it's historically really good, but I don't think it's even played in any Classic decks right now.
Oh, yeah. There's no Vintage. It's 14 tickets is all.
Yeah, I don't even know what people are talking about. Well, I mean, I know the card, but like I said, I don't know nothing about Legacy or Modern, so. I just know you play Force of Will and everything, and Emrakul usually wins. That's about all I got.
Well, that's one deck. There is a budget deck in
Force of Will.
Legacy.
There's like 3 in the top whatever 12 or whatever's on MTG Goldfish. There's like 3 decks that don't have Force of Wills, and those are the only decks that are like under $1,000.
Well, that's because
that's
like
ridiculous.
in real life, Force of Will will cost you about 60, 70, and on MTGO it's about 100.
Yeah, which is silly. I don't understand. If they want the formats to be more accessible, especially online where they're not restricted by a reserve list, like why are there's no supply of the cards, like I don't know.
It's a business.
Look at
going back to the money.
Yeah, even it's a business. You could print have another print run of it, which they're going to in Vintage Masters, but you could have another print run of it, and you could still make all the money off the print run, and it would still be worth money in the secondary market. Like, getting it down to like $60 as opposed to $100 like is not that difficult on MTGO.
It's supply and
Because they-
demand.
Yeah, but I'm saying like they could get it down there.
Yeah.
How
They
is
could,
Commander
absolutely.
like on MTGO? Is it pretty cheap?
It depends. I usually put my decks together for anywhere between 50 to 100 tickets, but a lot of that comes from like I am of the firm belief that I will spend way more money on Commander, because once I have one card, like I would actually be willing to buy one Guy's Cradle for Commander, because once I have that one Guy's Cradle, it can go to every green deck that I have. So, especially on on MTGO, where you don't have to also take it out of the deck and put it in the next deck. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much more convenient. But real quickly, speaking of Commander, Kevin, let's talk some Commander.
My Commander.
You had some very
hey,
interesting
I'm a
points
noob.
that you wanted to bring upon, like what cards should be banned. And Nate's probably gonna have to moderate this because this may get a little heated. But go ahead, Kevin.
I did
talk
some
about
research.
bannings.
Maybe my sources aren't the greatest sources, because I do what every new player does: just YouTube the crap out of Commander and see what people, because I have never played.
Hold on. Let's talk about personally. Let's not talk about other people, what they want to ban.
Well, that's what I've got
were
my
discussing
list
what
based on.
what cards do you purposely, or not purposely, personally want to ban?
Well, let me explain my history first, because I've literally been playing Commander for 3 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was kind of a snob. I think snobs understand.
Oh, absolutely.
Right,
I can
took pride in
testify
saying
to
that I've
this.
never played
Every
Commander.
time I would talk about Commander for like the last 6 months, I'd be like, "Hey, Kevin, blah blah blah. Oh, Commander. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Hey, Kevin, blah 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 blah. Commander. Oh, I guess." I'm like, "Hey, you should play." No, I'm good with that.
I'd just like to interject here. If you actually played Commander on your channel, you'd probably get like 3 times the views that we've been getting. Like,
well, he's playing with us. Like we've already talked about this.
We have a Commander.
He's gonna jump on one day with me, you, and Kelvin, and we're gonna have an actual 4-man, and we're all gonna kill Nate because that's what we do. Anyway,
Can I play my degenerate combos?
well, you play with you absolutely can, and we'll just kill you.
yeah.
And then you have
Part
to
of the
sit
magic
there
of
and still commentate, so it's gonna be even more.
Well, some of my degenerate combos come out of nowhere.
I know what you're playing.
Oh.
Like I'll know.
Okay, well,
I know you.
Well, I have a frame of reference here. My degenerate combo was tutoring for Phage, playing Phage, and then swinging with Phage all in one turn for like 1,000,000 mana. And I got hated out of the game like instantly.
Yep.
So you're gonna get hated out of the game much quicker because people actually know what you're doing.
Well, that's what people play Kalia. I'll kill Kalia immediately. There you go. There's a card I hate. Just because a player in my play group plays Kalia. And there you go. Here's my little ban list. Iona. I hate that card.
Okay.
Especially with Kalia. So horrible. Just, makes the game unfun when someone casts an Iona and names White, and then I'm playing White.
Cheats it into play.
Yeah, they do. They
not
cheat
casting it.
play with Kalia.
Right, so are you banning Kalia or are you banning Iona? Which one?
Banning Iona.
Okay.
Kalia has flavor. Iona has no flavor.
Okay. What else? Don't stop there. We talked about this before the show.
I was out actually spouting off stuff I read, because I disagree with this one with bribery. A lot of people suggested on the videos that I saw should be banned, because even though it deters a player from playing, I mean, you're basically punishing a player for playing a degenerate card, but it's also punishing everyone else. So on the play group for a certain person's decision on playing a degenerate card. So bribery is one that I think might. But the biggest one, I think, just in my limited experience of Commander, I would ban all the tutors. I think the tutors kind of they take away the point of the singleton kind of philosophy for Commander. I mean, the whole using one of each card was basically so games would be different every time you play. I've already noticed in my own little play group that people tutor for the exact same cards, the exact same pieces for their combo every game, and it just becomes the same game over and over and over again. So
well, see, here's where I disagree with you. Where tutors should.
I was going to get your opinion first. Yeah, good.
Simply because the way some people use tutors, like I use tutors most of the time, is just to find an answer.
It's
like I don't use tutors. Yeah, I don't use a tutor to sit there and grab all my combo pieces and sit there and build up until I just win all at once. Like I don't do that. I will use my like not demonic tutor, diabolic tutor,
you can't
or
afford demonic tutor.
diabolic tutor. On TGO, it's not that expensive. But anyways, I use my
No,
diabolic
you use your
tutor,
broken ass tutor that you discard a couple. What's that called? The one I hate.
I don't even remember.
Like,
I the only reason I found it was I was searching for
tutors.
No, I was just searching for powerful black cards on magiccards.info and just like, oh, this is a card. Like, I'm going to use this every single game now.
Yeah.
But that's a tutor you probably find broken. Anyways.
Yeah. I adopted your philosophy, by the way. I won't let people net deck commanders.
Oh, okay. So I talked you out of the net decking.
Yeah. So sorry about the interrupt. Go ahead again, Nate.
No, that's good. No, I'm actually glad to hear that.
Please go ahead. I want to hear. I want to hear your stance now.
Yeah.
Because Commander is all about personalizing a deck, and the whole it's the brewing experience. It kind of takes away the whole fun of Commander. Like I came up with the Tesa deck on my. I mean, it probably looks just like a net deck because I played enough formats over time to realize like I already knew about certain synergies and certain cards that existed that I didn't need to go and look at a Tesa deck. And same with Grim. And then, I got more enjoyment. I'll give you this. I've had a fun time playing Commander, and the most enjoyment again has just been brewing the deck.
Yep.
And in fact, some of those Commander games have been just unpleasant, as unpleasant gets. So, and I'd say about 90% of the time it was because of me, because I do generally.
Yeah, let's talk about your play style there, Kevin. Let's talk about some of the things you've done.
Let's also talk about your play group and why.
Well, see,
give us some context first, because
this is my point. This is my point. However, like he's sitting here. And this is why we were arguing in the beginning, while you were probably doing your school thing.
Yeah,
is that he's talking about like, oh, I hate this Iona because of it locks me out of play, and I hate Kalia because she cheats it into play, and I hate all tutors and this that, and I'm like, okay, well, what do you? Oh, I'm playing Mind Crank, and I've got this infinite combo. Oh, and I found this infinite combo. It's like your decks are all of equal power level, so I don't see why there should be any banning personally. Because, I mean, from what you've been telling me anyway, it sounds like everybody is playing just...
Well, there's one group. There's one brand new group of players that I kind of feel bad for comboing off and killing them, because they're literally brand new. They're playing horrible cards like a 2/3 flyer for 3 because they literally don't have any other cards. And I need to tone down my decks for that. But we did the other play group. They are a Commander play group. They're also like the Pathfinder board game type group. So Commander is the only thing they play in Magic. So they're the ones with the degenerate Ionas, or all the other stupid cards what is that little elf that searches the top of the library or remove the top 5 cards and puts one of those cards into play? And it's just so swingy and hit and miss that, of course, when they get their 10 mana cast, they're lucky enough to get the 10 mana casted one off the top, and
that's my L.
Yeah.
And I have 2 lands in play still because I'm on turn 2, and they have a 10/10 or 11/11 infect or whatever on their turn 3, and it's still 3 turns before I get my turn 3, and someone and then someone active treasons it or something and kills me with it. There's that type of stuff. Like, this was fun.
Yeah, but also like if that's happening, like, and here's my opinion. Again, I don't know because I'm actually not aware of it. I'm only aware of what you tell me. I'm nowhere near there. For frame of reference, I've never met either Kevin or Nate. One lives in Connecticut, he lives in Utah, and I live in Ohio.
Opposite ends of the country, yeah.
Yeah, completely opposite ends. But from what you've told me, okay, in the context of this, if somebody is casting Blightsteel Colossus, and another person is saying, I'm going to active treason that and attack you, Kevin, that means you have done something to either in that game or in a previous game.
I may or may not have
earned the ire.
Turn 3.
Then then it's your fault. That is my point. It's what I don't know what the actual term for it is, but it's when it's what I call play group bannings, where not necessarily when you're getting together and saying, hey, we're going to ban this, we're not going to ban this, we're not going to ban this. What I'm saying is it's when somebody is going to hate you out for doing something. When you
It's
lay
not
down
my fault.
poor ferocious, yes, it absolutely is.
It
Absolutely is.
If I have in my opening hand, I just happen to have a mind crank and a blood.
That's the thing.
Ascension,
Okay, look.
and then two players are willing to shock themselves with shock lands, knowing that it's going to put counters on my blood chief ascension. That's their fault for losing the game for everyone else. They have time to. Doesn't anyone play enchantment removal?
This is a game of politics, buddy. Like,
yeah,
there is Commander. It's one of the reasons I love it. There's a lot of politics involved.
And
you can watch my videos. How many times have I talked Kelvin into killing Nate?
Yeah, really.
Using the dumbest thing in logic possible, I can, and it's not necessarily like, me being able to talk Kelvin into things. But that's part of the game. That's part of the fun. That's why I didn't have any fun playing Commander Online until I started this whole Skype thing where you can actually talk and chat and not have to worry about that stupid chat box. And that's the thing is, like, people have long memories. So, like, even though Nate is sitting down, for like the 8th time with his Gwendolyn DeCourcy deck, if it was the first time, I would look and see, oh, Gwendolyn DeCourcy, this guy has fun. This guy likes to do things. And then you'd play it, and you'd be like, wow, this came out of nowhere. Like, I am hating playing this right now.
I mean, it's having its original intention. I'm gonna say this because its original intention wasn't to make the game miserable for everybody. Even though I said that, the original intention was actually just to have like group chaos. Like, nobody actually knows what's going on.
Yeah.
When they play a spell, like, okay, you have to discard your entire hand, and then you might get a spell that you want. You might get something totally different. Mm-hmm. That was the original intention of the deck. In practice, it kind of turned out to be, okay, everybody else is going to have a miserable time, but I'm going to know exactly what I'm doing and just make the game miserable for everybody except for me. Yep. That's what it turned out to be.
It usually ends up being asymmetrical no matter what. Like, you can sculpt your hand to do what you need it to do.
I tried as hard as possible to make it symmetrical, and to the extent of, okay, well, if I'm going to do this chaos thing, everybody's going to do it. But at the same time, like, okay, I play the Possibility Storm, and then I have all these like flashback cards and things that aren't cast from my hand, so I can get around it. And everybody else is like, well, I don't have a hand because you played an Oppression and a Possibility Storm,
right?
And I don't have any lands because you played a stupid Mana Vortex or something,
right?
Or like a whatever, it was not a Boom Bust, but something destroyed all lands or something.
Right, and you can just hold them in your hand, knowing that you're about to play it anyway, and get yourself a couple lands in your hand.
Yeah,
and that's the point. Like, no matter, even if it's quote unquote symmetrical on board, it never is, because you know what's going to happen before everybody else does, and you can kind of tailor your play around that, whereas we don't. Like, we're laying out lands, trying to get things going, and then the next thing we know, all our lands are gone. Well, now all our lands are gone because we played out all our lands and, did our ramp and this, that, and the other thing. But, yeah, that's neither here nor there. But my point is that play groups will definitely monitor themselves. The Wizards ban list doesn't really mean anything, again, because, you know what, there really is... I mean, Commander is not a competitive format at all, or at least it shouldn't be.
People try to make it that way.
People try to make it that way, that's fine.
That was one of our disagreements earlier.
Oh, yeah, he thinks that there should be just competitive.
You can't avoid that from happening, and there will always be a spike that's going to infiltrate the group and ruin it. And so that's why I think that Wizards has to step up to the plate and make a ban list. Because some people aren't aggressive enough. They're too passive to be like, let's establish a ban list. And it will just let them ruin the play group.
But Wizards does have a ban list.
I think.
Yeah, I know,
Wizards
so they should continue to ban cards.
Yeah, they should keep it up, but I don't think
ban Iona.
I think it does fall on the players to say that just to make a stand and say, okay, you're playing this broken card. Okay, we're going to kill you first every single game until you stop playing that broken card. Yep. Like, we're going to just okay. So this is an aside, but in my paper Magic, I've played against people who like, I play a Zedder deck. People were playing all kinds of stupid make lots of tokens, like, just we're gonna flood the board with unkillable creatures. Mm-hmm. So then I had to make my deck, so it's basically like as many board wipes as I possibly could have. I have like 20 board wipes in the deck, and all I do is every turn I just draw a bunch of cards, get my next board wipe, kill the board, and then like keep going, and doing that. And now I'm getting hated out of the format because I play board wipes every time, and people don't like to have their creatures killed. That's just the way it goes. Like you say ban board wipes or whatever, but no.
Right.
Well, they're necessary because then you got people that do just do degenerate stuff. But
That's
that's
why
when
I think Iona is actually kind of necessary too, because if someone's being the douche.
Oh,
then,
come on.
you know
Iona
what?
just needs banned. Let's do sign a petition to ban Iona.
No.
Go.
I don't think Iona needs to be
I don't
banned.
think she needs
I think
banned.
people need to stop all playing the same colors. Like if everybody's running the same colors, like everyone's playing mono blue because blue's the best color in Magic. Well, okay, Iona's gonna come out name blue,
Yep.
and then everybody's gonna be screwed.
Well, then somebody's gonna counter it. I mean, if everybody's playing blue at the table.
No, you put it out with Niall. He was talking about putting it out with
Oh
Niall.
yeah. Or into play with Kalia.
Kalia. It's getting
Something.
annoying when he tutors it. Demonic tutors it every stinking game and then attacks the Kalia and puts Iona out. It's the exact same game over and over and over.
Then stop playing with that person. Or, like I said, hate him out before he can get the combo off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Our group is so passive at the first from attacking specific players too that then that's another. I don't know if this is it's becoming a kind of a peeve of mine. I don't know if it is with you about people that play decks.
Mhm.
I put Skittles in this category, or this particular one got like buffed by the more enchantments it has on it, and so these type
You're
of people
the
just like, don't hurt me. I only have this guy on. He doesn't do anything, and then they just go for this one turn. Do 20 damage with their commander burst nonsense.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I could have dealt with your guy a long time ago if I wanted to, if I knew you were just going to hate me out and kill me for,
Well, I'll tell you right now, if someone lays down Skittles as their commander, screw that. They're dying.
Oh, they're dying first.
Like, I don't care.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't care if they're literally like turn 1 Black Swamp, turn 2 nothing, turn 3 nothing, turn 4 nothing. I'm attacking them every
Yeah, well,
single
that's how
turn.
this guy's deck
I will
was with
say,
the Enchanter.
My first commander deck ever was a Skithiryx deck, and I was a new player, and I didn't have another legend to play as my commander.
Sucks to be you.
So, but I didn't even like realize, and I won games off people who were playing much better cards than me just because I had a Skithiryx as my commander. Like
Yeah.
so I know how it goes. But like, just because someone's playing a broken commander, which we can debate the brokenness of Skithiryx, but I don't think he's broken. But
Well, it's just
I
a
don't- I
terrible
pers-
deck. Like, it was like, well, this particular person's deck was just terrible, so there's no point to killing him because he's so... Because if he attacks someone else, he leaves himself completely open just to die from... And it's just one of those things that just got pretty lame that it was like, okay, we have... And it was kind of metastasizing, is that a good word to use? Into like a really fun game that's going to have some really crazy wars, like battles going on. And then he just like, oh, now I'll drop unblockable and hexproof on him, and I'll... Is there any way you can deal with that? Nope, I'll kill you. And it wasn't even me that he killed, it was just someone else. I'm like, aw. And he like killed the opponent that I wanted to have this like massive battle with, where we both have these, just huge armies assembling and whatnot. And it's like, oh great, well, now you die because I'm just gonna kill you because now the commander's tapped, and or then he runs fogs and stuff like that. And it was just uninteractive. I guess it's my same beef I have with Boggles and Bant Auras and whatnot is that they're not interacting. They're just like, I'm gonna put all this stuff on one guy and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
Do you have an answer? Okay. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Kill you.
Have you guys played Boggles?
I don't play whatever that is.
Man, it's the modern. Everyone in my store can attest to this. I was playing modern and I chucked my
I played Boggle.
deck. I chucked it. 'Cause I'm like, who the hell plays this garbage? It was the stupidest thing. So the games that I won, it was like, okay, turn 1, I play an elf, a hexproof elf, or a Boggle. Turn 2, ethereal
I think
armor
it's actually
on it.
but it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll attack with it. There's 4 damage right there. Next turn I'll put a flinching or a daybreak cornet on it. It's just like, oh, you can't do anything you can do. And it was just the most boring game. So the games I won were so boring, and the games that you don't have that are like the clunkiest, awful. Like, it doesn't matter. Your person can be playing a draft deck and they can beat you. And those type of decks are like, ugh. Who plays those so swingy, inconsistent? Like, it doesn't matter what your opponent does. You're going to win if you have the hand, or lose if you don't have the hand. I hate those decks.
I don't even know why people would want to play those decks. Like, that's not fun to me to play.
Well, I was trying to build a gauntlet in Modern. Basically, you want to build all the top tier decks and just play them, just to give everyone, because no one around here knows what Modern is.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get a modern play group going and people interested in it. So I built a Storm. I built the enchantment deck. I built Soul Sisters. I built like a black discard deck that used to be popular. Like a bunch of these decks, and I was just playing around with them. Man, that deck is just like, it's horrible. That's I think the last World, you could see that Reed Duke in the finals. He was playing the green white. He could have played anything against Reed Duke and would have beat him. Because he just had that, we'll keep this hand because, I can't stand losing those decks too. It's like, I get to be the unlucky person that you have the God hand against. Grizzlebrand deck, that's the one I hate in Modern. I'm the guy. I'm
Goryo's
the one
Vengeance.
you're gonna have the turn 2 kill against. Because that's gonna happen like 15% of the time, and I get to be the one that.
All right. Well, we're at about an hour and a half now, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it. We'll probably have you back. I don't know. Periodically, I would imagine.
Not disruptive enough yet. They kicked off the show.
I think we've done enough ranting for one day, though.
I think because it's on your channel, I don't think I can actually kick you off my show. But no, it was fine. Like I said, I warned Nate in advance. Me and you argue a lot. We very rarely agree on anything for the most part. But it comes from a place of love and respect, as far as two healthy, different arguments, opposing opinions, hopefully some valid points on both sides, no MNFing each other or anything like that. But it was real fun. I actually enjoyed it a lot. So definitely
very interesting discussions.
Come back anytime you want.
Alrighty. Just quick shout out to everyone, build your rogue deck of the month.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, plug that a little bit.
So we're having a little bit, and if anyone knows web design, I've said this before in a couple other videos too, we could really use some help with that. We're all noobs here. I think I could speak for you two as well. I'm a gamer. I have no clue how to.
I don't edit
creating
anything.
videos is just like a happy coincidence that it somehow fell together, because I'm that bad with technical parts of things. So our editor Jonas is getting a little overwhelmed with that. I think we have like 100 submissions. But please keep submitting them, because I'm having a great time. There's been some awesome decks. Someone just made a Hellkite Tyrant deck. This is just sweet. It actually looks feasible in Standard. It's like all artifacts in the pirates. What's the artifact that exiles stuff? The 1 mana, and then 5 mana. You bring them all back.
All right.
Oh my god, I wanted to make a Standard deck based around that.
Yeah, someone just did in there, and so I'm thankful for all the amazing ideas that are coming out, and I'm going to try to showcase some of them. I'm extremely busy with trying to keep up my commitments to Gathering Magic, and keep producing and trying to run this contest. But I'm not ignoring you guys that have submitted decks. Just keep submitting them, and then we're going to try to compile them and get this contest underway as soon as possible. So if you haven't submitted a deck, I think the deadline's the 20th of November to submit that, and then we'll start the voting process and whatnot. And yeah.
All right. Nate, you want to say your goodbyes or whatever?
Bye, everybody. Very, very lame goodbye, but I don't have anything to plug, so.
No plugs from you? No upcoming content off of nateplant.com/org?
Well, you can check out my YouTube channel. It's just my name.
It's LUX.
No, it's not.
473. No, really.
No,
when I go on my phone, like, no joke. Hold on. I'm gonna go on my phone real quick. When I go to like everything else, it says Nate Plant, right? But for some reason, when I go to subscribe channels on my Android, it comes up as. All right, hold on. As my channel subscriptions. It comes up as, I'll just say that 100 times. L _ lowercase r 3ed 7grt sdy prk q hyphen it3 g's activity.
Ooh, I have all of 3 subscribers now. Ooh, and I have some decent videos up of my rogue deck of the month.
I will say that. I will say I like your videos. I'm not sure you're eligible. Kevin, is he eligible to win Rogue Deck of the Month?
I don't care.
What a sounding endorsement!
I will submit anonymously. I actually wanted you to see one of the decks. I think
Yeah, actually, I think that would be
like
fair.
it.
Why don't
As long
you
as
submit
are you in
anonymously?
Am I what?
Uzbekistan, or are you in like Turkey
Connecticut?
or
You already know I'm in Connecticut.
Egypt? Because man, oh man, is that a pain in the butt to ship overseas.
You already know I'm in Connecticut.
Anyway.
I mean, it might as well be Uzbekistan to you. I don't know, but
I think I've been to Connecticut, maybe.
All
I think
right.
I've driven through it at least.
So that was an awkward end way. So we're gonna just end this. I usually have a clever saying at the end, but I really can't think of anything right now because that was pretty much just completely unintuitive. So again, for roguedeckbuilder.com/channel roguedeckbuilder, Nate Plant, Kevin Crimin, the founder, and MJ Conroy, aka Sith Lord 066. Saying next time, same bat channel. Have a great day.